Before anything, a little backstory. I was 10 at the time and I was visiting my hometown, Ecuador, for the summer. At the time, I knew just about everyone in my small little town, and so did my parents, which is why they let me go on my own that day. Anyways, here's my encounter. Back when I was 10 years old, my family decided to take a visit to my hometown of Ecuador. We went for the summer and planned out just about our whole stay. One day, my mom and dad were getting ready to go to a wedding, and I was in the house with them. My big sister went over to a friend's house, and my other relatives had already left for the wedding. I was supposed to stay at home, alone for the duration, but I saw that it was a beautiful day out and decided to ask my mom and dad to go to the park that was no more than 2 blocks away. They were reluctant at first, stating that there would be nobody to take care of me, but I argued that it was a beautiful day out and there was no way that the park would be empty. They kept getting dressed as I kept on arguing until they finally gave in. They said that I can go to the park as long as I was back before dark. I agreed and ran outside to head for the park. It took me no more than 10 minutes to get there, and I was ready to make new friends and play around. But oddly enough, there was nobody else in the park. It looked abandoned, which was weird, seeing how this was one of the 2 parks in the whole city. It should have been packed, but I paid no mind to it. I believe I ran over to a swing set or slide. It was 12 years ago, I can't remember, and played around. As I played, I suddenly heard a voice from the distance. A clown was on the other side of a gate and motioning for me to get closer. Behind him was a white van, which I had noticed before but just thought it was a delivery truck of sorts. I slowly started walking towards the clown and stopped a good distance away from him. He asked me, "Hola niño, ¿te gustan los payasos?" Which means, "Hey kid, do you like clowns?" I shook my head no to him, and he gave me that clown frown and then said, "Well then let me see if I can change that." He opened up his car, and by looking inside, I saw there was only 2 boxes. Though, I wasn't sure what they were filled with, and that was it. No seats, no posters, just those 2 boxes, and in complete emptiness. Being a child, I still paid no mind to it, and watched as he pulled out a deflated balloon. He wrapped his lips around the end and blew till the balloon was fully inflated. He tied the end and started to form the balloon into a balloon animal of a dog. He showed it to me and I smiled. He then motioned me to come closer, to which I complied. He handed the balloon to me and said, "Do you like?" I nodded yes this time and gave him a little smile. He then grinned in the creepiest way possible. The grin was so creepy that even as a kid, I knew to back away a bit. The clown then said that if I wanted to see the rest of his tricks, I would have to get into the truck. I told him that the exit was on the other side of the park and I wouldn't be able to climb the small gate. He then said a few words that still haunt me to this day. "Get a little closer and I'll carry you over. Then we can have loads of fun in my truck. Come on, kid." While saying this, he still had the creepy grin plastered across his face. I merely backed away and told him, "No, it's okay, sir." His grin turned into anger, as though he was annoyed at this. He placed his hand on his hips and said to me, "Aw, but we were gonna have so much fun." Right when he said that, I heard a voice on the other side of the park yelling, Son, I'm here to pick you up." I turned and saw a man that I recognized as a local neighbor. He was not my real father, obviously, but the little me knew to run over to him. I said nothing to the clown. I just ran to the man and gave him a hug. The man waved to the clown and said, "Thanks for keeping my kid entertained." To which the clown replied, "No problem." As we turned around, I was able to hear this man murmur, "Sick fuck." I looked at him and asked, "Sir, what exactly is going on?" He gave a sign and explained everything. As it turns out, that was no real clown. He was a man that had been kidnapping kids across all of Ecuador. He would lure kids with the clown costume and take them away to God knows what place. The people of my town had a feeling he was coming to our town, which was why the whole park was deserted. He said that he was walking by when he noticed that I was talking to the clown and ran over to basically save me. As he told me this, he also dialed for the police to report the incident. We had finally arrived at my house, and this man said, "Be careful with who you talk to, son. Not everyone is who they seem." I gave him one final hug and gave him a thanks for saving me from that sick fuck. He gave me a rub on the head and said, "It's okay, my boy, now hurry on. I have my own things to worry about." I nodded and ran in the house. Nobody was there, and by the time they had returned, I had decided not to tell anyone since I knew they'd flip the fuck out. It took a while to forget about the whole incident, especially with those words that kept reminding me of him, but I soon forgot till I came across this page and memories of that clown flooded my head. I'm not quite sure what happened to the sicko, but hopefully he is now behind bars. Hopefully. So to that creepy clown from long ago, let's not meet.
This happened in the late 1980s when I was home one summer on break from college. About 2 years prior, my dad had purchased an old house with the intention of eventually tearing it down to build a new house. The house was built in 1916 and, like most homes built in that era, had a really unconventional floor plan. There was a central living area and the kitchen like any normal home, but the 3 bedrooms were more like separate apartments, each with its own separate entrance, a private bathroom, and a door that led to the living area and kitchen. Perhaps the place was originally intended to be a boarding house or something. I really don't know. The other thing that was a little bit creepy about the house was that it was old wood. The ceilings, the walls, they were all brown and nothing was ever painted or plastered. My dad was a pretty cool guy. While he was waiting for the permits and financing, he let 3 of my friends live there free of charge for watching the place. They all had a lot of parties, but my dad didn't care, as long as none of the neighbors complained. I went to a few parties myself, when I was lucky enough to be home from college. Eventually 2 of my friends moved out, leaving my one buddy there to watch the mostly empty house on its own. He was not the type of person to be afraid living in a house alone, so he was fine with the situation. I'm at home one afternoon when the phone rings. It's my buddy. He sounds terrified. He tells me to call the police and to meet him in the front of his driveway, but under no conditions go in. I asked him why, and he tells me that there's a crazy clown in the house. Apparently he was sick with the flu for the previous 2 days, and when he finally felt well enough to go into the kitchen to get something to eat, he runs face to face with the crazy woman dressed in a clown suit and makeup who starts screaming at him. It was then that he ran outside the house and called me in panic from a nearby gas station. I called the police and then drive over to the house, which is about 2 miles away. I find my buddy on the sidewalk out front. He's really shaken up. I asked him to describe what he saw, and he keeps saying there's a crazy clown woman in the house. I asked for more specific details, and he describes her dressed up in a white clown suit with red makeup smeared all over her face. He's still a little sick, so he looks really bad, and honestly, he was freaking me out as well. But there was no way in hell I was going into that house to investigate his story. After what seemed to be an eternity, a cop shows up. My buddy then tells him the exact same story. The cop then goes into the house while we wait outside. After about 5 minutes, he emerges escorting a crazy clown woman who looked exactly as my friend described her. She has wild, unkempt brown hair and is wearing a weird baggy one-piece, all-white body jumper suit that is kind of styled like this outfit here. What was really disturbing though is her face. She had a tube of lipstick which crudely spread red all over her cheeks in a failed attempt, I suppose, to make them look rosy. Although we were both freaked out, the cop thought it was hilarious. The clown woman claimed it was her house and then accused us of being on drugs and trespassing on her property. When the cop told her to get in the back of his squad car, she warned him that she had powerful friends in Tinseltown that would have him fired. When he came back to talk to us, he tells us that he can't arrest her for breaking and entering because the house was half abandoned. He said the best he could do was drive her a few blocks away and hope that she doesn't wander back. This of course freaked us out even more. Fortunately though, when they ran a background check on her, it turns out that she has an outstanding warrant and would be going to jail instead. That was the last time we saw her. When we got back into the house, we find all kinds of crazy stuff written on the kitchen cabinets in the same red lipstick she had rubbed all over her face. There was also some 10-day-old fish in the fridge that my friend never got around to eating, that she cooked on the stove and ate. The really scary thing though was that this crazy woman was in the same house with my friend for at least a day, while he was sick and semi-delirious in bed with a fever. She was probably harmless, but cut that part out. But who knows what she could have done if she stumbled upon him while he was sleeping. His door was unlocked the entire time. Fortunately, she never did as far as we know. One of the things she wrote on the cabinet with her lipstick was her name. While I'm not allowed to disclose this, I googled it and found a mugshot that was taken of her some years later. Here it is.